All right, let's record. Yeah. All right.
Welcome to Mindful Minutes with Musicians, the show where we aspire to inspire musicians and artists talking about mindfulness and what brings us through our practice to achieve greater goals.
Hey. Today's guest is William Ryan Pressley, aka Illicit Sound, a Toronto-based DJ who has been in the radio industry working for stations like Vibe 105 FM and Flow 93.5 FM. We studied radio broadcasting years ago at Seneca College back in the day, but I don't want to age us. So he has a podcast right now called Trapped Chat Alley Oop, a podcast about his love of basketball and everything in between. You can find that on illicitsound.com. He shares his view on the world on the radio daily, and now he's here with us to share some of his insights. Huge welcome to Illicit Sound.
What's up, brother? Good to see
Yeah.
you, man. Listen, this is a blast for me. Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries, man. Thank you for like joining me and taking time and everything like that. And
It's
yeah,
been a
man.
long time. It's been too long. So even if this is how we gotta connect, this is how we do it, man.
Well, that's it, right? 2020. um, First off, I guess we'll just start. Like, how have you been doing lately?
Um, I think like everybody, it's been a kind of a crazy year overall. You know, um, my life has been eventful. Like from the beginning, I started dead. I was born dead, and they revived me in hospital after 60 seconds. And
Yeah.
literally, my life has kind of been like this. I have a lot of real high points, but I have a lot of really low points too. And this year is no different. It's exactly the same thing. You know, we started off the year, and you mentioned me working for Flow 93.5, and I've been with Flow now actually, or the frequency 93.5 for almost 13 years. And
Mm-hmm.
and the Vibe 105 stuff was done intermittently in between. I also did sports radio for a while too, where I produced the National Blue Jays games, and I produced the Raptors broadcast too. Way back when the
Nice.
Raptors were not very good, but
Yeah. Still
um,
there. Yeah.
and so this year, I guess my whole goal in radio. You mentioned that you and I, have known each other since radio. Um, Basically, my goal has always been to be on the air at Flow 93.5. At the
Yeah.
time when we were in college,
I
Flow
remember you.
wasn't actually even a radio station yet. They had
Yeah.
announced that it was going to be, but they didn't. There was no firm date of an actual start. And while we were there, it hadn't started until, I think the last year of us being there. Maybe it was like literally we were graduating, I think, when Flow really started to take off.
Yeah.
And I said, that's where I want to work because hip hop is my culture. It's part of my soul and my being. And I felt like if there was ever an opportunity for me to be really happy, it had to be working with something that I really loved. And that's what where it
Yeah,
came from there.
within that environment and within that culture kind of thing. Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure.
And
Yeah.
hip hop is a culture. There's DJing, which is what you mentioned, which is my element.
Yeah.
But there's also breakdancing. There's
Yeah.
also, or it's also called b-boying. There's also graffiti, and
Yeah.
then there's also the MCing or rapping that the songs, the music that we actually listen to, right?
Yeah.
And then the fifth one is where I'm gonna tie hip hop is mindfulness. It's element is spirit.
Yeah.
It all together, and we use the art form as a release
Mm-hmm.
to get out. Let's say, I don't want to say it's always aggression, but a lot of times the music stems from a very what's the word, I don't know if you know,
Yeah.
but hip hop comes from New York,
it's emotion,
born
right?
out of the inner city. It
Yeah.
comes from poverty, right?
It's emoting, like it's giving you emotion, and it's giving you like whether that's strength or whether that's, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Like that's a whole lot of that, like
It was a way to release some of that stuff that could end up, hindering your life because you grew up in the inner city and then and very, impoverished neighborhoods. This gave you an outlet to do other things. And
mhm.
with now moving it back to this year, I had a chance now to finally be on the air, like, consistently. I've done it throughout the years where I was on for 6 months here, 3 months there, filling in for people here, co-hosting, I co-hosted the high school sports show back at, what I think is called now the Fan Sports Center 590 or whatever. I'm not
Five,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
590 though, whatever. Um,
yeah,
and, like, I would do whatever it was to get to the point where I did now in this last year. And right before COVID hit, we were talking about this off
yeah,
air, is that right before COVID hit, I got a phone call from our program director, and she was like, well, you've done amazing in all the covers and everything, so we're hiring you on to be part of the on-air
you're like,
staff.
yeah.
Honestly, I mean, here, to be honest, to show my emotional side, I shed a tear, man, because I worked a long time to get there, and I was passed by a lot of people over the years that, in my opinion, didn't deserve it. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful for the fact that I finally had an opportunity to prove myself, and I feel like I succeeded at that point. So they threw me into a situation where, okay, in radio, and I think television is similar, there's a lot of transition. So when a company buys out, say, a radio station, they fire a bunch of people and they bring in their own people. And unless it's a similar format or whatever, and then they take their assets and move forward, right?
Yeah.
Well, Flow 93.5 was sold, I think, 5 or 6 times. Now, I wasn't called Flow. Like I said, they changed it over the years. And I kept just skimming under the radar because I did a bunch of different things. I wasn't on air all the time. I did production. I wrote commercials. I did a little bit of everything. So to them, to keep me on as an asset was nothing. They just left me. Like, I'll never forget the first time they fired everyone at Flow. It was the craziest day in my career because they fired like 50 people all in the same time while I was standing there. Like,
Wow.
we walked into a room. I was the first person to go in. Me and, I don't know if whatever. Devo Brown, who is now a mad successful host on breakfast television and does a bunch of things. He's the man. So at that time, him and I walked in this way down the hallway. I went this way into a room. He went this way into a room. I came out with a job. He didn't. And it kind of went like that for the next 3 hours. I was the first person and I stayed the whole time because I was just like, these are my friends just being fired on the spot,
Yeah, it's hard, man.
And as things started to change, I had now an opportunity where they fired a bunch of people at Flow, and somebody who was very prominent in the hip hop culture and community, Mastermind. It was a big shock to the city when it happened. People were like, whoa, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And they also moved the morning show, Blake and Peter, to the afternoon. And they've come to realize that wasn't the right choice for them. And thank God Blake and Peter are back in the morning and right where they belong. And thank God, because the station's been great ever since. But that first day that things changed, I had to sit. I got a phone call at 5 o'clock that night saying, look, Ryan, we need you to come in the morning. So I'm not a morning person as it is. I'm used to going to bed at 3, 4 in the morning and getting up, a little later, where I had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be at work by 4:30, right? And the next day, less than 12 hours. So I didn't think that, man. I was just, my head was spinning.
Buzzing, yeah.
got to work, did the first 3 or 4 shows, and I think that went till about Thursday or something, and then COVID hit. Like literally everything happened at one time. Like, and at that
Crazy.
point now, decided they didn't want to move the morning show anymore because they needed something that was more Toronto. So they
Yeah.
put the computer back in the morning show for a while. And as COVID went on, but that being said, we were still really busy. Radio was still going on. Like it's not that I was missing work at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
then they moved Blake and Peter back to the afternoon, which is what they had intended to do. They put the show on. It was an American syndicated show called morning show called The Breakfast Club. It's pretty well known in New York City. And listen, I like the show. I won't like it's. I'm not knocking that show because it's entertaining, and they get guests that like I know I could never get. You know what I'm saying? Like they had Joe
Yeah.
Biden on during the election time. You know
Oh,
what
wow.
I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
You're
Yeah.
not. I know that I can't get.
Yeah.
It's just not happening, right?
Yeah.
So
You're not getting Jasmine singing on the radio.
well, you know what? Maybe if I knew him personally, but I don't. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And at that point, they realized that morning show was too American, and that listeners really didn't like it here. And
Yeah.
I personally agree. It wasn't, So I produced that morning show, and I made, I was doing well for a little while during the summertime there. That time where finally the quarantine was over and we could go do stuff. Life was pretty good. I was working basically 7 days a week, but I enjoyed what I was doing. Money was okay. I was, and then they switched the morning show back and things are a bit changed. But I've now also, cemented my spot on the weekends. And so I'm on the air Saturday at 4 p.m. until 10, and then Sunday 4 p.m. until 11. But in the middle, I'm producing Dr. J's Soca Therapy show as well. So I'm not on the air for those 2 hours. I just produce the show. But it's an honor to just be a part of that show. It's part of the Caribbean culture at this point in Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for it. So to answer your question after all that, my life is up and down, and it's been good. But I'm also, there's been a lot of struggle as well. So I'm thankful and I'm blessed. At the same time, I'm praying for better.
No, I hear that. But it's funny that like the with the losses there are still some gains there. There's, you know what I mean? And even though like it's crazy tough time for a lot of people, and even myself, there's still little things that are happening that you're like, okay, like there's new avenues and new ways that things are happening and stuff. And
Exactly.
I guess that my next question I was going to say is like, have you felt like you've been more or less inspired during this time? Do you feel like you've been like it's brought like more inspiration to be busy, or more inspiration to be in the spot you're in, or has it like?
So this, I read, you said, I don't know if we should say it, but you prepped me a little bit about what you were going to ask, and I thought about this question a bit because I did not answer. And I'm going to say in terms of, okay, so I never told nobody really this other than outside my family, but I suffer with extreme anxiety and never diagnosed depression, but there's been times where I felt, where I really truly wasn't inspired.
Yeah.
And there's other times where I'll wake up and I'll be the most inspired I've ever been. So I've made more music in the last year than, how about this? That may be not true because there's been other times that I made a lot, but the best music I've ever made has come out in the last year for sure.
Amazing.
So again, my life is a lot of highs, a lot of peaks, and a lot of valleys. So in this situation, to answer your question, both the most inspired and the least inspired I've ever been.
Yeah, I guess I find that's a common thread is that the emotions and the everything is going so up and down that like the one day you could just be like the inspiration could just hit you and you're like, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta like all the ideas, and then
You
there's
have
other
all the
days.
energy to do it, and it happens. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then there's other days where you're just like, I'm not feeling like doing anything today, like
I feel like sitting here and doing nothing all day. That's
yeah.
exactly what happened.
So it's interesting. Like I guess in I guess the question would be then in those times, like how do you deal with those things? Like how do you go
Well,
through
that's a good question, and
like
I'm no expert, that's for sure. But I did work at a place called Progress Place for about 4 years, and it's a place that works with patients with mental health issues. And I did all the work of a social worker, but as you know, I didn't go to school as a social worker, so it was like everyone else around me that did my job was a social worker. I just wasn't.
yeah.
And it would just, I think I got underneath the cracks because my lifestyle and the way I live and
Mhm.
every day practiced what they were trying to teach in that environment. So I fit their mold, although I didn't have the educational credentials to back it up.
Do you think that like maybe your aid abroad, like you going abroad and stuff like that? Like I don't want to give away anything. I don't want to let you answer, but like basically just like as I know you've done a lot of work uh, in helping others and stuff like that, and like that's yeah.
So absolutely, like that job actually came from a person I go to Haiti with. Like
Yeah.
that's how it happened. She heard of the position and said, "Man, like Ryan could do that position," and she hit
Yeah.
me up and was like, "I want you to apply." And I told her when I applied, I said, "They're not gonna hire me. I have no credentials." I did the interview, and I left the interview. I said at the time to my girlfriend at the time, I was like, I left, and I was like, I didn't get that job. I said, well, I don't even know why they did an interview with me. Like the woman who like was doing the interview was like sarcastic and like you
oh
know
yeah.
nothing, buddy. Like you know what I'm saying? And
And you're
I
like, sure, yeah.
agreed.
Like
You
you
know?
got me, yeah. That's funny.
But then they gave me the job, and it lasted for about 4 years. So yes, my work abroad definitely transitioned to that position. But
Hmm.
but those types of situations can put it into perspective for me a little easier than most people. I go to Haiti and I help build a school in Haiti, and we go pretty much every year. This past May now, and again 2020, it's the first time I want to say in 15 years, but I don't know exactly. I know I might have missed a couple, maybe me, but my organization has not missed in probably almost 20 years. We've gone either to
Yeah.
Jamaica or to Haiti, and we work in the slums. And in terms of Haiti, the ghetto is 1 million people. So it's pretty big. And
Yeah.
the destitute is beyond anything I can verbally explain to you. Like,
Hmm.
like it smells so bad in Cité Soleil, I can taste it. And I can't explain that to you. You'd have to
You
experience it
gotta
for me to really understand. And I could show you those pictures, or you could look at those Sarah McLaughlin videos about, 10 cents a day does this and whatever. And I'll never tell people not to donate, but
yeah.
those pictures can be desensitizing because you're only using the one sense. You're just looking at it. So
Yeah.
perceiving it isn't the same as smelling it, hearing it, tasting it,
Feeling
touching
it.
it,
Yeah.
feeling it.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And once you go and have those experiences, it's life altering. It's cognitive dissonance. It changes your core being. Like even if you don't want it to, you have no choice to because you
Yeah.
realize how fortunate we really are,
Yeah.
and how difficult even people's going back to Progress Place, how difficult people's lives are in our own city, and how drastic addiction and mental health problems play that we don't
Yeah.
even look into. So
Yeah.
absolutely does it help me? Yeah, it gives me perspective. It doesn't mean that I can just turn it off, though. If I'm upset about something, I just can't start thinking, well, I'm better, I have a better situation than them, but at least I can try and work through the issue with a level head, knowing that my situation could be worse. Do you understand?
Yeah. No, it's not the like, no, it's not knowing that or like feeling that there is a better or worse or anything like that. It's just knowing that there are people in really tough situations and really like are in
Dire,
need.
not
Yeah.
just tough, dire.
Yeah.
Like people, message me on a like a weekly basis, sometimes a bi-daily basis, asking for money from Haiti or Jamaica, and I have to say no too. There is a limit, right? Like, but at the same time, you want to help as much as you can. You just and what's been allowed me to keep doing this without burning out is to understand that when it's done, it's done. Like, I can't feel bad telling a person, sorry, I can't give you money for groceries for your baby because I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I need to be okay with that,
Yeah.
because if not, then I can't go to those places because it'll destroy me. Because, I when I go down there, I go with, let's say $1,000, okay? And I go into Soleil in Haiti, and I just, give out the money. And I literally, I have to do it on the down low. Like, people got to come see me, because honestly, if I gave out $100 to somebody, the whole community would come running. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's destitute. There's not even clean water.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Do you want to hear a quick story about water in
Yeah.
Haiti?
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah, sure.
this definitely ties into mindfulness, because it's something now that I am mindful of every single moment of my life now. And it happened the first time I went to Haiti. So I went to Haiti. We were building this school that is now finished. And, kids go there. And I was like, I'm a little bigger now. I'm probably about, just under 200 pounds now. But back in the day, I was a little dude, and I was lifting cinder blocks up over my head to work on the second floor of the school.
Yeah.
By 11 a.m., I was done. I was just spent. Couldn't move. My body was hurting. I was sweating to the point I couldn't take it, and I needed water. I had already gone through a full 2-liter bottle of water, a second 2-liter bottle of water, and a third bottle that was half mango juice and half water. So 6 liters of water, or basically,
Yeah.
And I was done it already by 11 a.m. And I felt like I was so parched. I've never been more thirsty in my entire life.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I stopped working. I sat down, and someone walked over to me and said, "You don't look very good." I said, "I don't feel very good. I need water." So my guide, who speaks English, in Haiti, they speak French, or a form of French called Creole. It takes from Spanish, French, and a bit of English even, really. And basically, we walked Cité Soleil, which is the biggest slum in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
So next to some of the places in the East, it's the worst place that you and I could travel to in under 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, no clean, like I said, no clean water, open sewage. It's vicious. So I'm walking through these little laneways, not on the main road, right? And my guide, who speaks both English and Creole, is asking everybody, where can I get clean water? Where can I go buy some water? And everyone's telling them to go this way, go that way. So we're like literally on like a wild goose chase looking for water.
Wow.
And remember, I've never been more thirsty in my life. Like, I felt like I was going to pass out. It's 42 degrees there because it's all cement. It's called City of the Sun because as soon as the sun goes up there, it's like you're in an oven. It cooks the cement, and the walls are all cement. You're literally cooking. I can't explain. It's the hottest place I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
And from there, we walk, and I stop, and there's this family on the road. I couldn't make this up if I tried. And they're all butt naked. The man, the woman, the 2 kids in the middle of the road butt naked.
Okay.
And they're with a basin of water that's about this big and a little bit of soap, and they're having a bath. True story. My guide goes over and asks them, where can I get some clean water? And the woman looks over, and at that time, I had just had, this how long ago it was? My dreadlocks go well past my ass, and at that time, I had just got them done. So they were like up here, okay?
Yeah.
And I took my hat off. It was a Blue Jays hat, and I went like this. And the woman saw me, and she looked and she said something to my guide, and they all started laughing. I was like, what the hell are they laughing at? He comes over and he said, she said you look hot and that she wanted to give you a bath. So I'm dying of water, and I can't help but laugh because, the woman was trying to be friendly and make light of the situation. So we walked for another about 15 minutes. So now you're talking 45 minutes I'm walking in the hottest place I've ever been.
I imagine you dragging your feet and
Cité Soleil has like an iron, not a gate, it's not closed, but it has like a big pillar over it. So when you come into Cité Soleil, it's well known. And literally the store that was beside the outside to Cité Soleil, it was that far. They came and had little bottles of water. So you know what? You and I would go to the dollar store
like
and
a
get
little
3 bottles for $1 or whatever, like 500 milliliters or whatever it is. Not a big one, but like it's a normal bottle. So I bought 4 of those for 20 US. So, and at that, it was about, the dollar was about the same. It was actually worse than it is today. So you can imagine that $20 US was probably more like $32 Canadian for 4 bottles of little bottles of water. So at that point, bro, my buddy gave me $10. It was 20 US. I took 10 and I said, I'm drinking these 2. I'll bring these other 2 back for my friend. And I turned around and we started to walk down the road. Now, it took 45 minutes to get to the place, but we weren't that far from the school. It's because we took a bunch of little side.
You were going around it.
And whatever, right? So to get back to the school is only about 5 blocks. It actually wasn't that far. And when I say blocks, they're not huge city blocks.
Yeah.
They're laneways. Yeah. And so I turned the corner and we start going down the main road. And I cracked the 1 bottle of water, and I'll tell you, brother, this is where the mindful part steps in. I never have had a better taste of water in my entire life. I close my eyes and I can taste it still today. And that being said, I had 1 more bottle. I thought, you know what? I'm not working anymore today. I'm gonna put this bottle back in my pocket and take it with me. I turn around. At that point, I had already put the other 2 in my pocket for my friend. I just didn't want. I knew that people would be begging, right? So I didn't want to, expose.
Have like a bunch of bottles. Yeah.
1 is one thing. If I'm walking down with the water, it's fine. But to have 4 and I'm walking down the street, that's a little more like, what? Can I have some too?
Yeah.
And so I just put those 2 in my pocket. And as I turned around, I still had the other one in my hand. And honestly, brother, there was about 20 children behind me. When I say kids, I'm talking between the ages of 2, butt-ass naked in the street, up to about, I want to say 12 or 13, young teenager, let's say, And I had that full bottle of water. I just finished 1 bottle of water. I was like, I'm just going to forget it. I'm just going to give this bottle to this kid, and he can share it. So I cracked the bottle, opened it up, took the cap off, right? I went to give the bottle to the biggest kid, and I told him, share it with everybody. Yeah, he said, no, give me. And he took the cap. He poured a cap full of fucking water, bro. Drank that cap full, and then passed it on the next kid as I, as a grown man, started bawling in the streets because I couldn't understand how the world works like this. And from that moment on, I have valued water more than anything else on the planet. I don't, even if I don't drink the first sip of water I take, the first thing I do is I'm transported back to my body there, and I feel like you need to be very thankful for this, that I can teach. And I've been trying to teach my daughter to be thankful, for water, to be like, understand that not everybody has it. She's starting to get it, I think. Anyway, that's my mindful story about water.
Yeah, it's wild because like something that you can just like here for us, you can just turn a tap and you got water. You know what I mean? And it's like that thought of like, you know what I mean, the complete juxtaposition of that, and that, like, the flip of that, like the other side, and it's just yeah, it's that's
Water is life, my brother.
yeah. Well, the 70% of our bodies, right? Like it's.
Have you ever seen the movie called What the Bleep Did They Know? It's about
No.
quantum physics and whatever, and they do an experiment where like you just to expand on what you just said, that we're 78% water. If you write a word like peace and put it in a glass of water and a drop of water and freeze dry the water, like as soon as it touches, it'll give you a beautiful ancient what's the word?
Like
Like it looks like a snowflake, but
yeah.
like it turns into like a beautiful shape. But if you write the word like hate and do the same thing, it looks distorted and it's so if you start to understand that words and energy helps transform water into a certain way, and remember that your body is 78% water, that helps you understand that your thoughts can help contribute to how you function on a regular basis.
Wild.
Do they know? Go watch it later. You'll like it. You'll thank me for it. It's a good movie.
Wow.
And
I will.
if
Yeah.
quantum physics put into an easy way to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and they were mentioning like sound and the body. Like he basically went into a completely vacuum sealed room, and he was expecting to hear nothing.
Of course,
And
you can hear your heartbeat for sure, the blood rushing for sure.
And he said I hear two noises. I hear one high noise and I hear one low noise. And he said, yeah, well, and the technician or whoever was running that was like, yeah, the high noise is your nervous system, right? And the low noise is your blood flow and your blood system, and like, you know what I mean, your heartbeat and everything. And you're like, and he's like, you know what I mean, like, so even when you're expecting to hear nothing, you know what I mean, in a vacuum sealed thing, there's always things floating, like you know what I mean, there's the water in your body, there's the blood flowing, there's your nervous, you know what I mean, there's so many layers.
When you break it down to the quantum physics level, at the situation where something like string theory can actually work, when you break it down to something that small, we're all the same, my brother. Like, vibration is everything. Yeah. So like, music is just another vibration, as you are a vibration, as the plants are a vibration, the water is a vibration. It's when you break it down to that like, I'm talking even smaller than the molecules, down to the smallest it can be. Once you get that small, we're all made up of the same thing.
It's all atoms, right? It's all just the same matter, right? Like it's yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'm like totally off of my questions.
Sorry.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect because like this is it. It's these are the things that like we want to be hearing and talking about. Type like now is like that we need to stop and take time to actually appreciate not only our bodies but what we're putting in our bodies, and like the, you know what I mean, whether it's yeah, all that,
Completely.
but yeah, it's
I think I'm gonna say one thing is I guess a question that I had kind of leading is like while like because you've been super busy with radio and all the rest of this stuff. What kind of stuff do you do like out of radio? Like like what kind of stuff do you do to keep your minds off of things and like kind of be
So,
positive or whatever outside of music and radio kind of thing.
well, again, as we were just talking about, I really make an effort to be in gratitude, be thankful for things. Like that
Yeah.
helps me change my mood. Okay,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? But in terms of physical things, what do I do? And outside music, because as I said, you mentioned I DJ, but I also produce a few artists as well, and I make my own music too. So I'm lucky, thankful enough that I have a nice little home studio that I can spend some time and do that kind of stuff. But
Mm.
outside of that, the one thing that I really love is there's two things that I spend more on: basketball, which
Yeah.
you mentioned, trap chat, right?
Yeah.
You were close. It's not all things basketball. It's all things Raptors. It's specifically Toronto Raptors centric,
Sick.
because that's where the '95 comes in, because that's where the Raptors started.
Started. Yeah.
So I've been trapped since '95, and actually, that's not my brainchild. It's another friend of mine who I work with. He worked at Flow, but he's on a hiatus because there's no live dares like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
But he also, I've DJed with him a bunch of times. We do the podcast, and he's a real fanatic too, like me, and is well knowledgeable in basketball and Raptors, and he's he does this kind of work. So he approached me because he was doing his own thing, and he hit me up and asked me if I wanted to be a guest, and I said sure, no problem. And then after he did the interview, he's like, "You ever want to just help me with this?" And I said sure, and that was 5 years ago. So it's kind of just spiraled to a point now where the broadcast has full production value. It's really good, It's actually sounds good. It's fun. If I was a listener, I'd be like, oh, these guys are cool. I could listen to this for 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And
Totally.
so in terms of that basketball, to calm myself and to center me, I can close my eyes and I picture shooting a free throw. And it puts me in a calm situation where I can bring myself down.
Yeah, which is a moment where you need to have,
Clarity.
calmness and clarity and yeah.
Exactly. And
That's cool.
And the other one that I absolutely love and has become equally as important in my life as music has, and that's cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
I grow, and I have been growing for a long time. I was a designated grower for patients for a long time. I also grew organically for dispensaries for a while. It literally gardening, because that's what it is. I know people think weed, but it's gardening.
You're planting, You're like,
and I'm tending to plants and feeding them, watering them. It's gardening.
so you're a farmer, right? Yeah.
And the absolute opposite end to radio and chilling and meeting Jay-Z and doing all that stuff is gardening. It's like it's my yin to my yang. You know what I mean? It's still the same thing, opposite end of the coin. You know what I'm saying? And I need it for my life. I've always smoked, like since I was in high school, and I realized it helped. I suffer with a physical condition that basically the enzymes in my stomach don't break up food properly, and I end up with a lot of pain sometimes. Sometimes it's unbearable. And at the end of the day, I realized as a youngster that, smoke a joint and I don't feel sick.
You're like, wait a minute, yeah.
So I could justify smoking weed and going to class and going to work and whatever, because I could go to work and go to class and do whatever.
And you weren't, yeah.
And at this point, I became an advocate for it. And as things went on, I decided that it was better because I was spending so much money on weed that I needed to grow my own. And I learned that, the different techniques, and I've now picked one that works well for me, and I produce pretty good weed. And it gives me a sense of finishing a project, just like music, just like
Yeah.
feel good when it's done. There is a downside, as there is to everything, and that's I'm actually allergic to cannabis. To touch it topically, I'm allergic to it. And so cutting and stuff like that, it can be pretty treacherous sometimes, like when my allergies get bad. But the gardening itself and working with the plants and that, like, tuning to that vibration has been really good for me.
Yeah. My partner does gardening and has gotten me into it, and just getting your hands dirty, you know what I mean, and that kind of stuff, putting your hands in the earth really changes, your
And when
connection to it,
it takes it. Well, I hear what you're saying, but it even takes it higher to a connection with the plants when you create the earth, the medium.
Yeah.
So once you make it, like I mix all these nutrients and different soils and cocoa, and I do a bunch of stuff, and I make it my own. Like I play God
And
and
you create
create this environment for that to live in. And once you do that, it's even more connection. It's almost like it feels like your kid for some reason. Like you really put the effort in. Not to say that, putting how about this? The way you do it is the same as if you were to do it outside.
Yeah.
I get a different sense of accomplishment when I do it.
It's funny. It's funny you say like a kid, because there's that creation part of it. But I like when you were mentioning that, my mind automatically went to when you're a kid, and you just like create a story with whatever you know what I mean. You're create you know what I mean, that sense of creation has like not been stripped of us, but like is not encouraged. You know what I mean? So to be able to like have creation, you know what I mean, and to like be like, I'm gonna make a plant. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like create this in a certain way. You know what I mean? And yeah.
I'll take it a step further. They say in the Bible says that we are made in God's image, and and that can mean many things to different people. To me, it means that we can create like God. Again, as I was saying, I play God by creating an environment for these plants to live in. We can have a fish tank that is a complete enclosed environment that was created, artificially, just like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And that I take it a step further and say that art's the same thing. And hip hop, with all of the art, the different like elements of the culture, they're all a way to create in some way, to express creation. And I feel like you said, that maybe we're not encouraged to do that. And I think I agree with you. And it's a shame, because art doesn't have to be good all the time. It's just the process of making it. Never mind other people experiencing it, because that is an element to it, but just creating it in itself. Even if the art is terrible, there's really something to get from that creation.
Oh, for sure. It, like, no matter like, yeah, there's always something to gain from some sort of art. Like whether even if you detest the art and you're like, I'm not into that, but you're still gonna like have emotion. You're still gonna feel something. You know what I mean? Like it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
And good art makes you feel something, for sure.
This kind of leads it. Sorry, go ahead.
Even if it's an actor and you hate the actor, you're like, this guy's such a prick. Yeah, well, he's not a prick. He's just a great actor. You're feeling that hatred towards him because he's doing his art, and that is, to me, I think it's amazing. The creation side of it is what keeps me moving sometimes.
Yeah, no, I've definitely felt that. In a movie where you're like, oh, I hate that guy, and then you're like think about it, and you're like, wait, that guy is doing an incredible job at his job. Like, you know what I mean? He's making me detest him. Like, yeah, that's yeah. You mentioned music, and you mentioned that you make music and stuff. How would you say that, or like what gets you into that process? Like, what kind of, like, if like before you start making music, um, is there a motion or something that you do to be creative or to like?
I hear you. Honestly, the creation of music specifically and DJing is my like passion. So
Mhm.
doing that, I always get the most enjoyment out of. So I seem to leave it to the end a lot. So like there's a million priorities that we got to deal with every day. Like I have a 3-year-old that I watch. I go to work. I got to do, like there's things that have to be done before I can sit at my piano or
Yeah.
my drum machine or whatever and make a beat, right? Like,
Yeah.
but whenever I have that time, even if I'm not inspired to be creative, I do stuff anyway.
Hmm.
Because the truth is, I don't have the time all the time, and I hate it. Like I wish I could be doing it a little bit every day. Because I would recommend anybody that has any passion for something should water that every day.
Continue.
You know,
Yeah.
but at
Yeah.
the same time, you don't might not get a chance to all the time, and because life is busy and there's stuff that goes on. So
Hmm.
to answer your question, I don't really have a traditional thing that I do. I like to smoke a joint, just sit down and wherever like I have a
Relax.
few and I start differently. Sometimes it'll start with drums. Sometimes I'll find a sample that I like. Sometimes I have like, I'll just take a chord progression that I like and I'll add, you know what I
And
mean?
then
And
work with
it
that.
really
Yeah.
depends on what. And also because although I'm a hip hop culturist for sure, I love all forms of music. I am
Hmm.
definitely not stuck in a box to make hip hop music. That's, to be honest, I'm not even sure hip hop's the best music I make. Uh, I think sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. I make house music. I'll make R&B. I make pop.
Yeah.
I make drum and bass. I like it. Just depends on where my. I don't allow the creative side to really dictate. I just let it go, and whatever happens out of that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes I start with a BPM. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
at 85 beats per minute, and we'll see what. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just a click track and just go from there,
Yeah.
And so it really depends. And I'll be honest, it makes for some great art, but it makes for some terrible art too. Sometimes the song sucks, and
Yeah.
it never gets past sitting in my folder that it just sat there, it got finished, and it got finished. And I'll be honest, sometimes there's songs that I've thought that this song was terrible and it's done, and then I played it for an artist and they've liked that one and taken it and used it. So
Oh yeah.
art is also subjective. So you just do what you can do, get the best out of it, and then move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. You miss all the shots you don't take, right?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna like kind of close this up with a question of basically what is mindfulness to you? How how would you
Good
kind of
question.
feel that
Um,
is?
well, we talked a little bit about
Yeah.
being mindful of water and being mindful of, but the term mindfulness, like as a construct, I think is the connectivity we share with all living things. Soul, the soul being connected to, what you do here in Toronto directly affects people in Haiti, and that not I don't just
Sure.
mean your everyday physical life. I mean how we interact as humans, how we move as a society, the things we put priority in, where we put our money, all of those things. So
Hmm.
mindfulness to me particularly is just remembering, taking a breath and remembering we are all connected. It is that connectivity of all soulful things. That's
Yeah.
what mindfulness is.
It runs deep, right?
I think it's
Yeah.
it's so deep that you don't even recognize it's there most of the time because it's
Hmm.
just part of your life. It's a program running in the background that you forgot was still on.
It's that heartbeat. The heartbeats keeps going. Like it's not, it's yeah.
Well, they even say, here's the thing. They say that your soul remains in your body after the heart stops for a little bit. Not long, but a little bit. And And I would have to believe that to be true after dying for 60 seconds. And,
The
I've
soul was
always,
still there. Yeah.
well, I would assume because I'm here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there has to be, I guess, I don't know. I'm not God. But at the same time, I didn't do the creation this time. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't know. But at the same time, I can speculate. I'm here. And at that point, there has to have been something connecting me to keeping me here. If it was my own choice or not, who knows? But at this point, definitely know that I was meant to do something. I don't know what that something is, but at this point, I'm here, so I might as well do what I can. So.
I hear that. Well, for all the guests and listeners out there, just make sure that you check out illicitsound.com.
Actually, I
And
just updated it and added a couple new Spotify playlists that
he's
are Canadian centric, Toronto centric, both independent hip hop and classic hip hop that people should know. That most, like, even Flow 93.5 doesn't play a lot of those songs. So I felt like that part of Toronto's history of hip hop needed to be told a little bit. So I added
amazing. Well, definitely go and check that out.
Please do.
And check out
Yeah, Flow
YouTube and
93.5 Saturdays and Sundays at 4:00.
right? Amazing. Cool. I'm gonna like pop off on the outro, but I've been thank you so much, man. This has
Thank you,
been
brother. I appreciate
great
this.
for
Usually
having
I'm
me.
you doing the interviews. It's cool to be in the other seat. So thank you.
Nice, nice. All right, let's do this.
Thank you for tuning in to Mindful Minutes with Musicians. For more information about my guest and the topics of the show, go to blackmoremedia.ca and connect with us on all social media platforms. Welcome to the MMWM family, where we aspire to inspire. See you soon.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you for being around and taking time. And yeah, man, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
When all of this quarantine stuff is all over, we're definitely gonna have to get together in real life and chill out for a little bit.